Welcome to Senior Insights. My name is Cynthia. Coffee is like an old friend. Sometimes it's bitter, sometimes it's bold, and sometimes it's sweet, but it's always there when you need it. So, coffee is a good friend. So let's spill the beans about coffee. Now, this is going to not be an intellectual treatise on coffee. I'm going to go briefly through coffee's origin, and I was kind of surprised to find out that it was discovered in the ninth century in Ethiopia. I thought that was interesting. I thought ninth century was interesting because I would have actually thought that it would have been older than that. And it was discovered by a goat herder who noticed that his goats, after eating the coffee berries, had a little more energy. And so that's how coffee was actually founded. And then in the 15th century, it kind of spread to Arabia, and Yemen actually was one of the central areas with coffee. And that's when the coffee houses began. Sometimes if you see spy movies, or you see, I don't know, if you see movies of those cafes that I'm talking about that they're sitting around, what was I trying to say? I don't know. Forget it. We're just moving on. Oh, those were the first coffee houses, and they were called Gahwa. Gahwa. In case you need to know. And then came along global trade, and that was Europe and Venice, and they started trading coffee, or trading for coffee. And then we had the colonial expansion. That was in the 18th century. And it went to Brazil. Coffee spread to Brazil and Colombia and Asia. And then, of course, we have the modern era from the 19th century to the 20th century. And that really kind of perfected the art of coffee making. They developed different machinery. They recognized different blends. They figured out how different roasts, mild, robust, moderate, whatever they call them, bold. So they discovered those things. They discovered different ways to make coffee in the home setting. And one of the ways is a percolator. I remember percolators, and I bet you all have fond memories of percolators. I remember it on my kitchen stove. It was a white porcelain stove, and the coffee pot was always there. And I also remember it as a young adult. You know, we used to do Tupperware parties and Avon parties and all that stuff. So you'd have a lot of company in your house, and you always serve them refreshments. Well, it's hard to make that many cups of coffee. So my mother gave me, for a Christmas gift or something, a 30-cup percolator, and it was electric. And you could still get percolators that were electric, like Corningware had one. I think Revierware had one. Miro had one. I don't know. You can Presto, Farberware. So throw in some more if you remember what they were. And over the years, different ways have been developed to brew coffee. Now, some of these I've never even heard of, so I'll tell you them just so you'll know. I have a fly in here that's bugging me. There's the drip, which is like our modern coffee makers. That's a drip coffee maker. I have a Cuisinart, and that's how I make my coffee. Then there's the pour over. And pour over is you just pour hot water over ground coffee in a cup or in a large container, I guess. But I have a funny story to tell you. Well, it's not funny, but when my aunt passed away and I was cleaning out her house, she had these little cups. They were plastic, and they had plastic, like coffee filter tops. You still had to put a coffee filter in them. But that was the pour-over method of making a cup of coffee. I got all excited when I saw those. I said, wow, this is great. I'm gonna try this. I tried it once and threw the whole thing out. It was like drinking, I wouldn't tell you what it looked like. Never mind. It was thin brown water is what it was. And then there's this thing called a chemif. It's a pour-over method, but it's a special container. It is a glass container. I've never heard of this. I've never heard of anyone talking about it, and I don't know anything about it. And then there's AeroPress. Now, I have heard of AeroPress. I've never seen it in use, and I've never had coffee that was made via AeroPress that I know of. So if you know anything about AeroPress, let us know, because that would be fun to know. Then there's espresso. Now, this is one that I didn't really know what espresso was. I've had it. I've had it plenty of times. And as a matter of fact, I remember my husband ordering iced coffee with a shot. It was a shot of espresso. And I always wondered what the heck it is. Well, it's a concentrated extraction of the beans that spits out or shoots out a concentrate of coffee. So that's why you drink it in the little, small, delicate cups if you go to Italy or Europe or you're fancy. Or that's why you dilute it into a cold brew or a regular coffee. That's why you have it after dinner. It must be quite a stimulant, that concentrated coffee. So I know espresso, I've had it. I went to Italy and France, that's all we drank in the morning. But I wondered what it actually was. It's just concentrated coffee. You probably already knew that because you're much more world traveled than I am. You're much more sophisticated. And then came along the cold brew. Now, I don't understand this at all. Why would you cold brew coffee? This is me thinking. Why would you cold brew coffee when you can take a pot of coffee, make it, and put it in the refrigerator? Is it the same thing? I'm not sure. But the purists use cold water. And I don't know if they soak the beans or ground coffee in the water for 12 to 24 hours. And then they have their cold brew. A lot of people are drinking iced coffee. It must be the same thing as... No, it couldn't be the same thing, because cold brew is cold brew. And I would think that iced coffee is real coffee poured over ice. That's the way I always thought of it. Does anybody know what it is? And people that drink cold brew, and there are a lot of them, they typically put a lot of cream in it. When you use cream in your coffee, there's a saying that you have half coffee and half dessert. 2 in 1. So, and then there's this mocha pot, M-O-K-A pot. Never heard of that one either. And that is a stovetop steam pressure coffee maker. I don't know. And then there's a single serve coffee maker like the Keurig and the Nespresso. And it depends on what you like. Then you have to figure out, this coffee stuff is extremely complicated. I didn't know which order I should go in. Well, at first you need to figure out what kind of pot you want to use. Then you need to figure out what kind of coffee you need to use. And I am not going to go into all the different kinds of coffee. There's Colombian, there's coffee from all over the world. There's Kona coffee from Hawaii. When I was young and first married, we were into the Kona coffee. I have no idea. I haven't had it in years. I don't know what it would taste like. It probably tastes awful now because my tastes have changed. So you have to figure out, do you like flavored coffee, like vanilla bean, like hazelnut? Do you like so many, caramel cream, toasted almond? There's tons of different kinds. So you have to figure out now, if you like those flavored coffees, what kind you want. That coffee company that I told you I bought my coffee from, they sell packs of samples. It's called School. And that's how I discovered that I actually do like blueberry coffee. So then you have to decide, do I want whole beans or do I want to grind them myself? Now, I do both. You can also buy whole beans in the grocery store or the specialty store, and you can grind the whole bag in the store because they have machines that you just go up to. I have never done that. I don't know why. I'm afraid. I don't know I'm afraid the machine will come out and bite me. Does anyone else do that? Or you can be like me. I use both ground and whole bean coffee. So I have a little grinder. It's hiding behind my toaster oven there. Because the counters, if you had all these gadgets, if you had all those coffee pots, where would you put them? All you need is one thing. So I have a coffee grinder, and it's hidden. But occasionally, I will buy coffee that needs to be ground. Now, the coffee that I bought from that company, School Hill, I'll try and write it down on the thing when I'm done, is whole bean. So I am going to have to grind it. And that will be good because I like the way coffee smells when it's first ground. You know how when you just open up the bag of the beans or the ground coffee, it smells so good. I've never been able to recreate that aroma throughout your whole house with coffee. I don't know what it is. So you have to figure out what kind you want. You have to figure out what kind of bean you want, whole or ground. Have you already figured out how you want to cook it? Then you have to decide, not cook it, make it. Then you have to decide, well, what kind of cup are you drinking in? Now, I'm not fussy about cups, but if you have espresso, you probably should drink it in a tiny cup. That's the way it's supposed to be done. So we want to be correct in some of the things we do. You know, I'm only kidding. The espresso, you could throw into your regular coffee and give yourself a real jolt if you're not waking up. Now, espresso is probably not a good thing for elderly people because it would send you into tachycardia or something. We don't want that. Oh, I didn't even talk about decaf, so you have to decide, do you want decaffeinated coffee or regular coffee? Decaffeinated coffee. Ugh. I know you have been told to drink decaffeinated coffee. I know that the nursing homes feed the residents decaffeinated coffee. And I know that it tastes awful. So, you could get some decaffeinated coffee and then get a shot of espresso and put it in it. Anyway, Remember, instant coffee, how many of you are using instant coffee? A lot of people still use it because it's convenient. I never liked instant coffee and I haven't used it in a million years. But I do have a small jar of espresso powder that I use when I bake chocolate. It enhances the flavor of chocolate. So that's another thing you might have learned. So we're talking about how you want to drink your coffee. Some people collect mugs. Gina from Little Portion Cottage, she has a different mug every day, and one's prettier than the other. Or, you know, they're each unique. She likes to collect them. Mine right now is a Christmas mug. That's deteriorating at a rapid rate. Well, that's good, and then you won't know it's a Christmas mug. So anyway, that's the story of coffee and figuring out what kind of coffee you actually want. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget to find those words in there. BGR. BGR. You have to find those words in the thing. You can find 3 B's, 3 G's, or 3 R's. Or you can find one of each. Just 3 things. That's an easy assignment. I will see you tomorrow. No, I won't. I'll see you tomorrow at the live. There will be no morning video.